Bicol University or BU, the premier university in the Bicol region, Philippines, is a SUP Level 4 institution by Department of Budget and Management or DBM standards. Established on June 21, 1969 following the passage of Republic Act 5521. It has 17 colleges spread across its 7 campuses in the provinces of Albay and Sorsogon, with the College of Law and the College of Medicine as its latest addition, and recently the Doctor of Dental Medicine and Doctor of Veterinary Medicine. As of latest count, Bicol University has 82 AACUP accredited academic programs, with 3 programs accredited at Level 4. It is also a Level 3 accredited institution whose reputation as the premier university in the Bicol region is rooted in its consistent top-level performance in various licensure examinations, becoming recognized as top-performing school in accountancy, social work, midwifery, nursing, education, and engineering. BU has been given its seal of excellence as CHED-recognized Center of Excellence in Teacher Education, Center of Development in Nursing Education, Center of Development in Fisheries Education, and Center for Higher Education Research. Its commitment toward national thrust and directions and in meeting the needs of its community beyond the university borders is reflected in its programs and projects as base agency for Bicol Consortium for Health Research and Development or BCHRD and base agency for Bicol Consortium for Agriculture, Aquatic and Natural Resource Research and Development or BCARD. Over the years, it has earned its place as one of the 22 leading state universities in the Philippines. Bicol University has also been recently rated as 3-star institution by the Quacquarelli-Symonds or QS Intelligence Unit, the independent compiler of QS World University Rankings. Bicol University has expanded its linkages to Europe and Southeast Asian universities. This is Bicol University.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and passionate enthusiasts of history and art, welcome to the grandeur of the past, revealing the artistic value in Spanish era churches and diocese of Legazpi. I am honored to be here with you for this captivating webinar that transports us back in time, exploring the rich tapestry of Spanish colonial era and its profound influence on the churches in the Diocese of Legazpi. As we embark on this virtual journey, we'll delve into the architectural marvels, intricate designs, and the cultural significance encapsulated within these sacred structures. Let us appreciate and understand the enduring legacy of the past, recognizing the artistic treasures that continue to stand as a testament to the bygone era. To start off, let us feel the presence of the Lord for our invocation and to be followed by the singing of the Philippine national anthem.
magiliw, pelas ng silangan, nananag ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, tuyad ka ng magiting, sa manlulupig, di ka pasisilip, sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mabaga, may nilagang tulad, awit sa paglayang minamahal. Pag-islap ng matawat mo'y tagumpay na naglilinig, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pang mali magdidilim. Lupa ng araw ng bakit pagsinta mo'y langit sa piling mo. Aming ligaya na pamay mga pirang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
So, good morning, everyone. Just a gentle reminder that there will be pre-test and post-test with regards to this webinar series. This is the episode 1 of our architecture webinar series, appreciating and understanding Spanish colonial era churches in the Diocese of Legazpi. And please, a reminder to everyone that fill out the registration link and the evaluation link later to receive certificate of participation. So, to start this our webinar series, let us welcome for our opening message the DUEMD Associate Director, Professor Rowena Zoilo.
Thank you very much, Sir Kenneth. To the Director of the Institute of Design and Architecture, Architect Leo Del Rosario, faculty and non-teaching staff, students, our guests and participants from Zoom and FB Live, good morning. I am delighted to welcome you to the first episode of our architecture webinar series titled The Grandeur of the Past, Revealing the Artistic Value of the Spanish-era Churches in the Diocese of Legazpi. As what our host mentioned, our journey through time begins as we unravel the architectural marvels that have withstood the test of time, capturing the essence of a bygone era. Today, we embark on a fascinating exploration of the Spanish era churches nestled in the heart of the Diocese of Legazpi, a region that not only holds historical significance but also showcases the artistic brilliance of a period rich in culture and heritage. As we delve onto the grandeur of the past, we are transported to a time when craftsmanship and artistry converge to create structures that not only serve as places of worship but also stood as testaments to the creativity and devotion of the communities that built them. Throughout this webinar series, we aim to uncover the intricate details, architectural nuances, and the stories behind these magnificent structures. We will witness how these churches, shaped by the hands of the artisans and architects, continue to narrate tales of faith, resilience, and the enduring beauty of architectural design. Before we proceed with the discussions, let me express our gratitude and congratulations to our distinguished speaker and expert, Architect Alwin S. Kalig, who will guide us through this architectural odyssey. His expertise will shed light on the historical context, artistic significance, and the meticulous craftsmanship that went into creating these timeless landmarks. On behalf of the BU Extension Management Division, with our director, Dr. Marcia Corazon P. Rico, who is attending an equally important activity, we would like to extend our warm welcome to our attendees, particularly the architects, historians, students, and enthusiasts who share a passion for preserving and celebrating the architectural heritage that defines our cultural identity. So without further ado, let us embark on this captivating journey, a journey that will not only unravel the past, but will also inspire us to appreciate the grandeur that stands a testament to the artistic spirit of the Spanish era churches in the Diocese of Legazpi. Thank you for joining us, and let the exploration of architectural splendor commence. Congratulations also, of course, to the uh, team of Sir Ed for the technical assistance to the architecture department in coming up with this architecture webinar series. Thank you and good morning.
Thank you, Professor Zoilo, for your wonderful message. At this juncture, let us welcome Architect Ana Lorilla, Extension Coordinator of Bicol University Institute of Design and Architecture, for the statement of purpose. Architect Ana. So Architect Ana Lorilla is not around to introduce our resource person for this webinar series. May we all welcome the research coordinator of Bicol University Institute of Design and Architecture for his topic, The Grandeur of the Past, Revealing Artistic Value of the Spanish-era Churches in Diocese of Legazpi. Let us all welcome Architect Alwin S. Gali.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Sound check. Let me know if I'm audible and live on cam right now. May I hear some feedback from the audience?
Hello, sir. Good
We can
morning.
hear you, sir.
Okay, thank you. So, welcome everybody to this first presentation of our webinar series. So, let me share to you my presentation. Can you see something now on screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So, here we go. We'll be talking about the grandeur of the past, revealing artistic value of the Spanish-era churches in the Diocese of Legazpi. Okay, this time we will be a bit nostalgic because this is part of our undertaking, so that of course we will be familiar of all the things that is existing when we talk about architecture. So let me begin. All right, what to expect in this talk? What to expect in this talk? First, we'll be conducting a pre-test for everyone, especially the participants. And of course, introduce the topic. And we're going to at least define the artistic value of architecture as we talk about the grandeur of the past, revealing artistic value of the Spanish-era churches in the Diocese of Legazpi. Likewise, we will look back, as I was saying, during the Spanish-era construction timeline. And we're going to have a presentation of Spanish-era church of artistic value recognized by authorized institution. And with this, we will learn also how to identify artistic value through heritage management and with the use of a research instrument such as NCCAA instrument. And later on, we will conduct a post-test. So, are you ready? I just hope all of you are ready now. So, this time around, it's pre-test time. So we're going to share the link right before you, and you're going to answer that. And the time being, we'll allow you to enjoy that. And up until we say you can submit it, or as long as you're ready, you can submit automatically. You may please join and connect with the link and start answering the questions.
I am encouraging everyone to please comment done in the chat box after you finish fill outing the pre-test link. The link is in the chat box. Thank you.
As of the monitoring, it's 20% response.
So thank you everyone, to those who have answered the pre-test. Later, we will have our post-test to assess our learnings with regards to this webinar series. So let us give back the floor and the spotlight to our speaker, Architect Alwin. Architect Alwin.
Okay, I'm back. Thank you very much for participating. So let me continue. There, but beforehand, I would like, of course, to define what artistic value is. So we're talking about the physical architecture in this portion of our discussion. So what is artistic value? Let me unlock some words here for us to have an idea. What does it mean when we say artistic? According to the Collins definition, it is someone who is artistic and is good at drawing or painting or arranging things in a beautiful way. So each one is entitled for this. So what about value? Collins defined the value as something such as a quality, attitude, or method, and its importance or usefulness. If you place a particular value on something, that is the importance or usefulness you think it has. So therefore, in this case, each one is entitled for its artistry and at the same time, its value. So its artistic value. Now, how do we recognize the Spanish era church's artistic value? Can we just say that one particular architecture is of artistic value? Now, let's take a look at some part of architectural principle. How do we really give an artistic value to a certain craft? Now, let's take a look at a Vitruvian principle. You can see on screen an illustration of a creation by Leonardo da Vinci dated circa 1419. It is a drawing by an Italian Renaissance artist. It was inspired by the writings of the ancient Roman architect Vitruvius, and the drawing depicts a nude man in two superimposed position with his arms and legs apart and inscribed in both a circle and square. What does it imply? Simply, it talks about the balance, formality, and informality of a certain craft or creation. During the height of the ancient Roman civilization, it was Marcus Vitruvius Pollio, otherwise known as Vitruvius, who wrote his thoughts on architecture. This notable work is commonly known as Vitruvius' Architecture, which he had penned down in his 10 books. However, I'm not going to discuss these 10 books being mentioned here. What I would like to emphasize here is the Vitruvian triad, which pertains to Venustas, Utilitas, and Firmitas. What is a Vitruvian triad? Based on the illustration, when we say Venustas, we speak of beauty. When we say Utilitas, we speak of utility. And we say Firmitas, we talk about its strength. There is in any way this tree can be described. So at this juncture, this is now the complex side of architecture. However, we will be looking at the fundamentals and basic principles of architectural design. In so doing, let me illustrate further how things come and go when we speak about artistic value in architecture. We all know that an art should exist, so that's the artist's rendition. We ascertain quality and this aspect of a Vitruvian principle. And likewise, from this quality, we expect that there are materials, finishes, or even ornaments which qualify a certain characteristic of architectural design. In so doing, we also consider value. It involves significance, purpose, and even emotion. So there are some aspects which is not physically manifested. However, it can be considered as one sorry, of the principles being considered in the principle of architecture. Likewise, it has its methods, which pertains to construction, techniques, and application. Notice that the third implies the skills and capability of an individual to execute any idea based from an existing materials with superimposing significance, and likewise the application of methods, which is now seen physically in architecture. Now let's take a look at the Vitruvian principle and how it is being summarized. It is therefore that Venustas expect for its high quality and the beauty as its value. Utilitas, which firmly asserts the utility, superimposes the significance. And likewise, the firmitas or the solidity, or sometimes it is known as strength, talks about the stability of the structure itself. Now, what makes a structure of artistic value and credibility? Let's take a look at history. Spanish era from 1565 to 1898 is known as Spanish colonial period. Historically, the Philippine archipelago was under the Spanish regime for 333 years. And this time, let's take a look at construction timeline. I just would like to take note that I understand its audience right now is coming and represented by different origins. So I'll be flashing on screen the historical significance of the churches which has existed according to its timeline. Would you believe that the first church emanated from not the known churches we know today? Imagine in 1600s, the first church of Saints Joachim and Anne Paris is not somewhere. Can you guess where it is? Congratulations to Malinaw, Albay, because according to the history timeline, it was in this place that the first church was established, followed by Saint John the Baptist Parish Kamalig Albay in 1605, followed by Saint James the Greatest Parish of Libon Albay in 1605. And on the same year, Saint Michael the Archangel Parish was Albay was established, followed by Saint Stephen Proto-Martyr Parish in Ligao Parish in 1608. In 1616, Saint John the Baptist Parish was established in Tabaco City. In 1616, Saint John, or rather Saint Gregory the Great Parish, Albay District was in Legazpi City, followed by Saints Peter and Paul Parish, Pulangi Albay, in 1654. And proudly, it is where I am rooted because this is my birthplace. In 1660, Saint Rose of Lima Parish was established in Bacacay, Albay. In 1668, Our Lady of the Assumption Parish in Ginubatan, Albay. In 1773, Our Lady of the Gate Parish, Daraga, Albay, was founded. In 1776, Saint Lawrence Martyr Parish, Tiwi, Albay. In 1777, Saint Raphael the Archangel Parish, Manito, Albay. In 1785, it's Saint Dominic of Guzman Parish, Santo Domingo, Albay. And in 1798, Our Lady of Mount Carmel Parish, Malilipot, Albay. In 1856, Saint Raphael the Archangel Parish, Legazpi Port District, Legazpi City. In 1876, it's Saint John the Baptist Parish, Jubilar, Albay. And in 1891, Santa Florentina Parish, Rapu-Rapu, Albay. And lastly, in 1897, Saint Michael the Archangel Parish, Visita San Miguel, Tabaco City. So what does this story timeline imply? It only says the churches was built for a period in such a way that it's not an overnight structure, meaning that the time itself speaks of its value. So therefore, its antiquity, considering the present day and modern times, therefore says that the high value is not an happenstance, but in itself historical. That's why it is called heritage structure nowadays. Now, let me present the various types or the churches mentioned according to vicariate, which is divided into three. So when we speak of vicariate, it simply means the office, jurisdiction, or tenure of a vicar, or the office or district of a governmental administrative deputy, meaning somebody operates or operationalizes and therefore manages the structure. With the above mentioned storyline, let me present the physical structure which has been embodied through time. So under Vicariate 1, the very first church which was built in 1600, as you can see on screen, is Saints Joaquin and Anne Parish of Malinao, Albay. It is simply a structure that stands for over the past decades. So if you are from this place, you maybe can take a look at this and go visit the site, because this is the most and the first church built in the Diocese of Legazpi. Going further, on screen is St. John the Baptist Parish of Tabaco City, which was built in 1616. Notice also the transition of the churches made due to time and its historical issues. And so we have in 1660, the St. Rose of Lima Parish, Bacacay, Albay. For the time being, you will notice that there are changes in some parts of the structure which is inevitable. However, there are parts in the churches that speaks a lot about its past, so it is therefore of artistic value. In 1776, the St. Lawrence Martyr Parish in Tiwi, Albay is prominent with its unique features, details, and the ornaments which has been installed or inlaid with the structure. In 1785, we have the St. Dominic Guzman Parish in Santo Domingo, Albay, which remains for its unique materials, form, and structure. In 1798, as you can see on screen, is Our Lady of Mount Carmel Parish in Malilipot, Albay. There may be some alterations due to time and need for its maintenance, but still, the historical form speaks about its grandeur, and so speaking about artistic value. In 1897, the St. Michael the Archangel Parish Visita in San Miguel, Tabaco City was built. Notice also that in the time that the introduction of ornaments has evolved, and so with its architectural form. Now, let me present the churches built under Vicariate 2. First off, we have the St. John the Baptist Parish, Kamalig, Albay, which was built in 1605, which later has received its recognition for its unique historical map in the history of architecture. We have the 1616 church known as St. Gregory the Great Parish, Albay, which is known to many. We have the 1773 Our Lady of the Gate Parish, Darag, Albay, which captures the scenic framework of Damayon volcano built uphill of Darag, Albay. Notice also the transformation which has been done due to the purpose of maintaining the structure and so its credibility. In 1777, St. Raphael the Archangel Parish in Manitou, Albay was also built. But in the time being, as mentioned, there are changes due to the structure's importance on saving its heritage condition. In 1856, the fondly known Saint Raphael the Archangel Parish Legazpi Port District and Legazpi was also built. Notice also the details and form which eventually has led to the transformation of architectural details in ornaments. In 1891, the Santa Florentina Parish Rapuraba Albay Church was made. Notice also that the form and structure seems to evolve due to its introduction and trends of architecture. Now for the Vicariate 3, let me present the following. In 1605, St. James the Greater Parish, Libon Albay, was also founded. In 1605, St. Michael the Archangel Parish in Uwas Albay. And in 1608, the St. Stephen Proto-Martyr Parish in Ligao Parish. Notice the similarities of the built churches with respect to the areas it was founded. In 1654, the Saints Peter and Paul Parish, Pulangi Albay. Let me expound in this portion of the church of some familiarities I have since I was born in this place. In the time being, this church has been somewhat altered due to modernity. However, the church still speaks of its antiquity when you try to scrutinize the interior, even the back part of the church. In 1668, here is the Our Lady of the Assumption Parish in Ginobatan, Albay, which is still existing. In 1876 is the St. John the Baptist Parish in Jubilar, Albay. Notice the transition of details, ornaments, and the building form, which eventually led to the architecture and its unique features. Now, who declares the church's cultural, artistic value and historical significance of a cultural property? To simply put, there is an agency which tries to protect it, and it is but none other than the National Commission and the National Historical Commission of the Philippines. What is an important cultural property? It is a cultural property that possesses exceptional artistic and/or historical significance. What is a national cultural treasure? It is a highest designation to a cultural property for possessing an outstanding historical, cultural, artistic, and/or scientific value, which is highly significant and important to the country and nation. Now, let me mention some special churches which has been presented already. Let me present this in such a way that for the purpose of recognizing its heritage value and artistic value, it is again presented here. Now, let's take a look at St. John the Baptist Church of Camalig as an important cultural property. It was built in 1605, as we know, and therefore, it was declared by the National Museum as the church with important property pertaining to some conditions that the Constitution of the Republic of the Philippines provide the state with a promotion and popularization of nation's historical and cultural heritage and resources. It is also in this policy that the state shall preserve and protect important cultural properties and national cultural resources of the nation, and to safeguard their intrinsic value. Whereas in this declaration of Republic Act number 4846, otherwise known as the Cultural Properties Preservation and Protection Act, as amended by Presidential Decree number 374, Republic Act 8492, the National Museum Act of 1998, and Republic Act number 10066, the National Cultural Heritage Act of 2009 specifically vested the National Museum as the agency of the government to implement the provisions of this act. Whereas in RA number 10066, it was stated as an important cultural property and shall refer to a cultural property having exceptional cultural, artistic, and historical significance to the Philippines, and shall be determined by the National Museum and/or National Historical Commission of the Philippines. Whereas it stipulates some issues. So what's with St. John the Baptist Church? Accordingly, the Church of St. John the Baptist, constructed in 1848, is of large massive boulders and stone blocks worked on a human labor by procuring the services of hundreds of stone cutters who work on a daily basis under the supervision of Spanish engineers. Whereas the church was reconstructed from 1878 to 1983 to include changes to the interior to cope with the proposed Philippinization of the church in consonance with the neo-catechumenal rite of the liturgy of the Eucharist and baptism. Whereas the church has produced in its exemplary Franciscan mission saintly and pious missionaries as well as scholars who include historical personages such as Fray Francisco de la Parilla, canonized as saint by Pope Pius IX, Fray Francisco de la Trinidad as writer and Marian, and Fray Pedro de Avila for their outstanding Franciscan homilies. Whereas the church survived the wars, weathered and braved Mayon volcano's eruption, the strong earthquake and typhoon, sans the original roof, old tiles, communion rails, and transfers of some of the church elements, with its physical structure consisting of thick walls and buttresses, and original windows still extant and is relatively intact. Whereas this church is a cultural property enjoying the presumption provided by RA number 10066 as important cultural properties, whereby the St. John the Baptist Church possesses exceptional architectural engineering, cultural and artistic significance reflective of the nation's history, and culture and merits official recognition as an intrinsic part of the heritage and patrimony of the Filipino people, and consequently, the assurance of and commitment to its protection, preservation, and promotion by the national government through the National Museum and other mandated cultural agencies. Whereas the St. John the Baptist Church possesses exceptional architectural engineering, cultural and artistic significance, reflective of the nation's history and culture. And such, the church merits official recognition as an intrinsic part of the heritage and patrimony of the Filipino people, and consequently the assured of and commitment to its protection, preservation, and promotion by the national government through the National Museum and other mandated concerned agencies. So therefore, it is not an overnight happenstance for one particular church or artistic value church to be recognized as one. And of course, as expected, each church has its own stories that you have to really understand and follow through. So another is the ruins of Bujao, situated in Daraga Albay as national culture. It is in the same document that says the declaration of the archaeological site of the ruins as a national cultural treasure. Let me talk about the fondly known ruins of Cagsawa Church, which was built in 1587. considered also as a national culture treasure or cultural treasure. Whereas on the same stipulation, it has undergone a process, a rigorous process for it to be declared as national cultural treasure. Let's take a look at the St. John the Baptist Tabaco City as one of the national cultural treasures considered in the Diocese of Legazpi, which was built in 1616. Now, how to explore the historic site and structures in the Philippines? For you to hone and understand further, you can visit the National Registry of Historic Sites and Structures in the Philippines and find out which among these churches has or have undergone series of declarations in the so-so of it. Now, how to evaluate the artistic value of a church through cultural mapping? The next presentation is simply using an instrument for one to at least determine the artistic value of a given church. So in this case, let me introduce the National Commission for Culture and the Arts for the cultural mapping. What I am presenting here is the use of an instrument which is officially used in order for a specific architectural structure to determine its importance or its artistic value. First off, it's important to know the background and information of the structure itself. First is understanding its type, whether it's a church, a temple, or a mosque. Next, you have to determine the religion or denomination. You have also to identify its address, location, and even its coordinates. Understand the area and its land structure. The year constructed and its estimated age, which is very essential for its counting years. Determine its ownership and its jurisdiction. Likewise, the declaration and legislation. On the right side, as shown on screen, is an official form which can be utilized for cultural mapping. So let me continue. Aside from that, it's also essential to at least consider its description, talking about the physical description, the history of the structure, and its status. The physical description simply puts all the features that includes exterior, the interior. Whereas in the case of a church, you have to at least understand or must be able to check its interior facade, likewise its bell tower. For the interior includes the retablo, the baptismal font, the spaces used, its ceiling and floor, and so with its landscape surrounding the structure. And as I was saying, it's important to know its history and likewise its status, whether occupied or not occupied. Another area for evaluation is significance. First off, its historical significance. Next, aesthetic significance, followed by scientific significance, is social, socioeconomic, sociopolitical, and spiritual significance. Take note that every church or every structure being studied has its significance, and that's because of time and the story associated with it. Conservation is also part of the assessment or evaluation, whereas from there you can determine the status or condition of the structure, whether it's excellent, good, fair, deteriorated, or ruins. Likewise, the integrity of the structure, whether it's altered, unaltered, moved, or remained on its original site. So under conservation, it's important also to determine the constraints, threats, and issues. Likewise, the conservation measures itself. Now, it is also important to list some significant tangible movable heritage because as we all know, churches don't just exist. There are some artifacts or valuable items that needs to be identified. So in this portion of the documentation, it shows here to identify the object and name it, likewise document it, and of course you have to determine the year it was produced or the estimated age for its artistic value. Now, as part of the references, it is important to identify the key informants, the references itself, the name of the mappers, and the date of profiling. So it only shows that this is just a single step or one step ahead towards the determination of artistic value in architectural design. Now, let me present a sample of a culturally mapped church of artistic value. Let's take a look at the artistic value of the church mentioned, which is the St. John the Baptist, using the NCCA form. What you can see on screen is a legit presentation of a material. Credit to the researchers, of course. So this is how it is being presented, as you can see on screen. So those are actually the results of the research undertaking using the form and through cultural mapping. So that includes narratives, descriptions, documentations, images, and any technical support that will help the identified object or structure to be of valid value. So having that, I would like to pause from here so that we can also check things out whether all the issues has been retained in our memories. So I think at this part and time, it's post-test time. However, of course, we will still continue as we entertain questions relevant to the issues or topics presented. For the time being, we're going to present the link again for your post-test time. So you may do so. Enjoy answering the questions.
Hello, everyone. Just a reminder that the post test link is in the chat box. If you have difficulty answering the pre test and post test, please try again now, as there are technical difficulties a while ago, but now um, it is already fixed. So, Sir, I'm Biasong. Uh, Please try again the pre and post test. In the Facebook Live, the post test link is in the comment section. Once you're finished answering the form, please comment done. Thank you. I am encouraging everyone to please comment down your insights, questions, or any point for clarification, as we will have an open forum after this post test. Especially to those architecture students of BU. I am encouraging everyone to please ask some questions. Thank you. So thank you for answering the post test. Let us give back the floor and the spotlight to Architect Alwin. If you have questions,
All right. Thank you for
you can
participating.
type
So
it
this
here at the chat box or in the comment section at the Facebook Live. Any questions or point for clarification are encouraged.
okay, at this point, let me conclude my presentation since you're done with your post test time. So thank you for watching and listening. And I just would like to remind everybody that you can still subscribe after this because there are series of webinars to be presented in some seasons of the month. So there, let me stop by sharing. So we're ready to entertain questions from our spectators. And likewise, of course, the team is with me to at least answer some of your questions. With us is Architect Ana Lorillo, our proponent extension coordinator for BU IDEA, and of course, our proponent head, Edgardo L. Bismonte, sir. I think there's question now, the chat box.
Hello, sir. There is one question from Sir Edge.
Oh, so I thought
Um,
he's my
the
teammate in answering
question,
the
sir,
question. All right.
goes
Okay.
like this: Why are old churches can be compared to cathedrals?
Okay, that's a good question actually. Where in fact, if you will notice in the presentation, it was the Renaissance period which has actually introduced that in a certain period of time. So therefore, way back then, the development of churches has been rooted and inspired from European, ideas. We cannot deny the fact that there are actually transitions. And if we're going to take a look at some scenarios, not only in architecture, parlance, even in fashion, Europe has been there already. So I think that only shows that there's some sort or place in the entire part of our globe that really started it. So I think that's a good question. And that helps a lot in understanding history, specifically like when we try to trace and take a look at how architecture started. So just remember 400 years pass in a time like that. So we have it already. All right. So I just hope I was able to answer the question. Okay. Or anyway, according to Sir Ez, can we compare our old churches to cathedrals in Europe? Yes. Actually, that's very optimistic because if we are going to take a look at some of the designs and the national map of heritage churches, there is actually a depiction. One example is the San Sebastian Church that's in Manila. And that is actually an influence of a European design. Whereas from there, the introduction to Industrial Revolution and because of the details which has been exhibited, and that shows a lot. Okay, Sir Ed. Hopefully I was able to satisfy your craving and the type of question you have, which is I believe this is very interesting to archi students because it's very important for us to trace our roots when we design. So we call that character in architecture.
Thank you, Sir Alwin.
Yes po.
Meron pa po tayo isang question dito.
Sige po.
Why
And
is
all right.
St. John the Baptist Church in Camalig is an important cultural property, while St. John the Baptist in Tabaco is national treasure?
All right. Well, I think that requires a very intellectual answer, and I believe there are experts on this. You see, as I was mentioning kanina, National Museum and the National Historical, um, agency such as like that is actually trying to give a specific definition to this. So Saint John the Baptist is one, and Saint John, I mean, both are Saint John the Baptist, but you will notice it was, you know, founded in different place. So when we speak of important cultural property, it has an exceptional cultural, artistic, and historical significance, while the national cultural treasure has outstanding cultural, artistic, and historical value. So these are actually declarations that has undergone, a rigorous review, and it is only these agencies, as mentioned, can really speak for it. So we just look at it, and in the time being, that's the only way we can say that this is of high value. So that's important cultural property and national cultural treasure to identify. Is there any question? Hopefully, I can see it on screen. Meron pa pong tanong. Anyway, Architect Lorilla, Ana Lorilla is with me. If there are some stringent questions that needs to be answered, we're also open to this. Okay, let me entertain one question from a student in the name of John Paul Bertus. This is on FB Live. Is there a national heritage site or being developed as a World Heritage Site in Albay? Well, at this point, I think it will be good to hear from our team. But I would like to answer that. But of course, there are some, you know, things right now which at first we cannot totally say it as us. So there are stages. And anyway, we can prove or say create a document out of that. I think that's not impossible that we get to the point of becoming a World Heritage. And obviously, in some parts of the country, there are already. So if you mean like in Bicol, particularly in Albay, I think that's optimistic. And as of the moment, it requires, of course, scientific evaluation, not only about its artistry, but also its, you know, details that really qualifies according to the agency that evaluates it. Okay pa? Meron pa parang maraming tanong ah. Hindi ko kasi masyado makita dito sa ano ko. There. Another one is it's from Ma'am Weng, Zoila. All right. Here's the question. How can local communities be involved in the preservation and promotion of these churches? Well, I like this question more than liking it. I love the question because, it's very important that you be involved. First thing first, if you remember, I presented the different churches in the three vicariates. Now, I believe also that each one has originated from a specific place. For example, I am from Pulangi. It is only then that you will realize that you belong if and only if you go to the place, touch every part that you see, and try to check every detail that you cannot see. Because the beauty of the churches is not what we see right now. it is actually withheld. I remember when I had my research for the St. Peter and Paul Parish Church. And because I was tasked to do that, it was only then that I discovered that the beauty of the church is not on the front. It's not either on the envelope that I see right now. When I tried to roam around the structure, I found out that the beauty of the church is behind the setting. I saw the old bricks, which has been, sad to say, now a rubble, which has not given a value. I remember because of that visit, I was able to write a poem. Yes, that's true. It is only when I was checking in every place of the church that I felt that the true nature and culture resonates with where we came from, especially when you see this old timbers and logs, which has been rotten, the bricks which has been broken, the rubbles which has toppled down, and people are just stepping on it. No, this question is actually nostalgic. That's why I'm challenging every audience to go to the church, not because for the sake of prayer alone. I would like you to touch everything in there because that says a lot and tells about your story, your origin, even your ancestors. Believe me, and that connects you to what we see right now, not only the artistic value, but the essence of knowing where we came from. Well, masyado akong naging emotional dun, ma'am. Ma'am Weng. Anyway, there. Okay. May mga tanong pa. Medyo kina-capture ko kasi was trying to,
Thank you, Architect Alwin. I
yes, sir.
believe Sir Edge po is raising his hand.
Okay po.
Meron po siyang question. Sabi niya po dito is, why do churches have high ceilings? Is this part of the principle?
All right. Thank you, sir. That's a good question for every architecture student to understand. Let me just go back to the story that I'm trying to tell. I was born in the place where I came from, and it's sad to say that when you get inside these churches, the purpose has been, altered. All right. Why the church's ceiling are high or is high? Simply because it connotes many things. First, we live in the natural environment and the interior has to be cooled. Next, it has a high ceiling because it's very important that the light should pass through the interiors. Where can you find a church? Let me challenge you on that, my dear audience. Where can you find an old church that the wall is so thin, like 4 to 6 inches thick? Are you not aware that the width of the church is not less than 1 meter? Just imagine the construction technique that has been employed there. Why that high? Aside from that, there is actually an acoustical reason. When was the time you were able to enter a church that once you hear a bird inside the church chirping, you can almost hear the chirping sound even at the farthest seat of the church? Now, maybe that's not transparent at all because of modernity, because we make use of audio visuals and all that, artificial treatment. So the only way that I would like to impart there is the value of craftsmanship and artistry with its scientific value, which I know for now is not noticeable. Yes, sir, Eds. Hopefully I was able to satisfy that part of your question. I think maraming tanong. Let me capture one from here. Hopefully I can entertain more questions from students, I think. And there are also comments you can read through on the chat box. Okay, let me entertain part. Here from Hans Warren Cruz. I can see some message sa chat box. Good morning. How do we raise awareness among priests assigned to different parishes with surviving heritage structure about the dangers of uncontrolled and improper renovations that could destroy and eventually take away its historical accuracy and significance? What are the future plans for the conservation and promotion of the Spanish era churches in the Diocese of Legazpi? I think Hans Warren is a student, if I could remember. That's a good question, actually. Like what Mom Zoel was asking then, it's very important that we connect. I'm going to give back that question to you. You see, you're taking the course, you're taking architecture, and I think it's about time that you help, build that cup. And through empowering and, reaching out for these people who are somewhat, let's say, less informed or less knowledgeable because they have a different discipline also that they're also trying to focus into. I think our social concern don't stop from just merely appreciating the artistic value, but technically we really have to impart to them the idea not only of time, it's out antiquity. It's not only it's antiquity, but the fact that it can no longer be built because it's already done and it's modern now. So what are the future plans in conservation? I think there is also an action being done on this. And this is actually just starting in the Philippines, I believe. Yes. So with those issues, it's also a challenge on, the parts of the students to at least understand more and deeply understand. And of course, you have to reach out. That's why this undertaking is being done. So this is an extension activity, for you may know, that requires a lot of involvement. Okay. So this is just starting here. And I just hope this activity is a pilot undertaking for everybody to get connected. Okay. Am I open to entertain more questions? Let me check. Okay. Another question comes from Karen K. What are the challenges to cultural heritage conservation at religious heritage sites, and what are the roles of architects in preserving its cultural values? So yes, actually that resonates also with the just recently answered question. I think all what we can do right here is, of course, to get informed. It starts with us, we being architects, because there is no other individual or any entity that would be responsible for this, but we architects, you future architects, future designers, or even conservationists of the future. You know the feeling when I was trying to create this presentation only to discover that the storyline, the time itself. I just hope kanina when I was presenting it, you are having a calculator with you. This is a challenge to you all. Compute the time which has been bygone, way back the structure was built in your place. Like in our case, it's 400 years. Just imagine, I have the 4th generation. And that's too much. That's of, a value that really has to be looked into. The time itself. That's why it's so precious. It can no longer happen at all. Or it may not happen at all. Wait, may tanong pa. Okay, according to Sir Edge, this activity is part of the conservation heritage.
Sir Alwin,
Yes, po.
there is a question here from Gerald Vic.
Yes, sir. Can you please read for me, sir?
Sir Edge po wanted to answer the question. Pwede po niyang sasagutin yung question.
Okay, sir. You may, please.
Hello, good morning. Okay, good
Sir.
morning, sir. Sir, allow me to answer the question here from
Yes.
Gerald Vic
Yes,
Junior
please.
Bado. Okay, so as a student, can we also conduct cultural mapping and submit it to the NCCA? And it is possible to delist or register a structure as important cultural property. Okay, so actually there are two questions here. Okay, so if a student, he can or she can conduct cultural mapping and submit to NCCA. Okay, so based on our experience at Alvin, right? And you were part of the cultural mapping team of the tobacco
Yes,
city,
sir.
the LGU of tobacco. Actually, cultural mapping is a scientific process. And before you can be a cultural mapper, you have to undergo a series of training. Okay, so there are many modules. I believe that if I'm not mistaken, there are 11 modules which a cultural mapper should undergo. Kasi kaya ang pagmamap ng isang cultural property ay hindi lang siya basta-basta. So kailangan natin mag-training. And I myself, together with Sir Alvin and some of the BU faculty here, before we went to the field for cultural mapping, we were trained by the NCCA, National Commission for Cultural Arts. So, nagkaroon muna kami ng training, facilitators from the NCCA, and before they deploy us, because that's part of the process, as part of the methodology in the cultural mapping. However, as a student, you can also map. However, parang ang gagawin mong mapping is to identify, di ba, in your community, which you think a property that is significant or valuable in your community. Kasi sa cultural mapping, meron tayong tinatawag na ang ililista muna natin, sir, ano yung imamap natin. So, and then, so yon kapag na-identify mo muna ang isang an important property in your locality, then if there are, or maybe you can submit that in your in the LGU, di ba, for possible mapping. Okay, and the trained mappers will do the mappings. Okay, so as a student, what we need to do now is to identify those cultural properties which we think are important. For example, in the tangible heritage like houses, churches. So if in your community merong 50-year-old na isang community, so pwede siya ma-map. Okay, so what we need to do is to map. Okay, so I really appreciate your question if you could map, because it means to say that you are expressing your love for our heritage. Kasi ang una muna natin dapat gawin is to appreciate, di ba, all of these heritage according to the heritage cycle. Kailangan muna natin ma-appreciate ang isang bagay. And then kapag na-appreciate na natin, we will love it. And then later on, there will be utilization of it. Okay, so as a student, you can map in such a way that you can just list all the properties which you think are important. Then later on, you can submit your list to the local government unit. And kapag nagkaroon sila ng activity for the cultural mapping, so that will be considered in mapping. In the cultural mapping. Then another question is it possible to delist or unregister the structure as important cultural property? Okay. I think, di ba, kapag important cultural property, okay, and including the national cultural treasure, kapag nabigyan na ng title na ganyan, so kailangan natin pangalagaan na yan. Okay, so dapat pangalagaan para hindi siya ma-delist. Although, there are some instances na kapag hindi inalagaan, kasi tayo mag-aalaga, because the NCCA, the National Commission for Culture and the Arts, maglalagay sila ng mga markers. For example, important historical marker, nagkakaroon ng important cultural property, national cultural treasure. Ang ibig sabihin nun, dapat tayo aalagaan na natin yan. Pero kapag hindi natin inalagaan yan, for example, ang Kangsawa Ruins, which is declared as the national cultural treasure, kapag hindi yan inalagaan at nagibayan, of course, mawawala, di ba? So, madidelist yan. So, this title is parang it is comparable to our responsibility that we have to be responsible for all these declared cultural property. It doesn't necessarily mean na kapag ang isang cultural property ay na-declare ng important cultural property or the national cultural treasure ay hindi na siya madidilis. Madidilis siya kapag hindi natin inalagaan. So that's a wake-up call for us that we have to take good care of all the properties, especially those who have given the title. Kasi kapag binigyan ng title, hindi yan basta-basta ang bibigyan ng title. May mga scientific study pa yon, di ba? May mga evaluation pa, di ba? And it's the National Commission for Cultural Arts that will declare the property as a national cultural property, as a national treasure, or an important property. And these activities, nga sinasabi ni Sir Alvin, this is part of our promotion, this is part of our conservation efforts kasi dapat muna natin ma-appreciate ang mga bagay-bagay kasi kapag hindi natin na-appreciate yan, hindi natin makikita ang kanyang significance and value. Okay? So I hope that I was able to answer the question of Gerald Vic. Okay, so thank you, Sir Alvin, for giving me the opportunity to answer because I couldn't help but to answer because, di ba, as part of, as kasi team tayo, di ba,
Yes, sir.
training tayo ng NCCA para mag-map ng mga cultural property.
All right. Thank you,
Thank
sir,
you.
for yes. Anyway, as Sir Els was trying to deliver something, I can't stop but to think of something other than this activity because eventually our audience, I think, is part of this. So there's so much to do actually, and this is a good initiative here. Thank you, sir, for stating your insights on this. Anyway, may tanong dito si Ma'am Weng. How does the relocation of the mayor's office in some municipalities impacts to the historical and cultural significance of the churches and parks in the locality? Well, isang marubdob na makadamdaming sagot ang pwede kong masabi na talaga po namang meron po talagang sabi na nating inadequacy in responding to these issues. I would like to throw this scenario to the students, like in the time being, you exist in your place, you have your municipal halls or buildings, you have the churches around it. Sorry to mention that our town is what I'm going to illustrate here. Way back, our municipal building used to be that, very traditional one, and eventually it was converted into a modern structure. But if we're going to take a look at the historicity, churches are actually next to the government buildings because during that time, it has a role or importance really. Okay. So, ang tanong ni Ma'am is, how does the relocation of the mayor's office in some municipalities impact so the historical and cultural significance of the churches and parks in the locality? Because first thing first, I think we really have to reach out and make them understand, like what Sir Eds is trying to say, appreciation is foremost. There are some municipalities that has been, I can say a victim of this transformation without so much of likening or awareness on the issue of cultural heritage preservation. So at this point, it's very infant to say that even the local leaders is actually unaware of this. So how does it impact its significance? Well, once it's no longer available or existing, therefore it has its other way impact, to say a negative impact. Because right from there, people can no longer tell exactly what's the connection of this, say, structures. And accordingly, you can check the history. And notice also that the municipal buildings is close next to the churches. And you cannot really evade to, make these two structures come together. Because historically, it was the Spanish who ruled for this. And there is something for, Indians or Filipinos to be captured early in time. Okay, that's something that you have to confirm. Why the bell tower is fronting right the government building and there is this terraza. Actually, there's a story to that. And even the church ruler is trying to make some actuations to signify the presence or absence of every Filipino, which invariant during that time, we are being, colonized. So until the revolution came out. But that is a quite in-depth story. I mean, history in itself. Physically wise, structuring these things or elements in the community, it has a bearing, of course. And it is something that nowadays needs to be discovered, especially you students who's taking history of architecture at that. Okay. In the modern context, it's so fancy, but when you look at the time, it becomes what? A trivia. But there is so much to that. And as long as it's there is something to tell. So hopefully it remains. Okay? So, yun lang po masasabi ko. May impact talaga siya. Okay. Is there more question? Mayroon pa pong tanong?
Sir Kadi,
Yes, ma'am.
may i-add lang ako dito sa question ni Hans.
Yes, ma'am. You may please.
Opo. Ah, yung tungkol po sa ating mga priests sa diocese, they are already aware of this proceedings. That's why we have the Commission on Temporalities in the Diocese, to which yun din po ang extension services ng ating institute. Before they can before they can touch or renovate anything in the church, they must undergo a process to which hihingi ng permits coming from the national agency, especially those churches ranging from the 50-year-old up, and lalo na po yung may mga marker natin. And aware na din po ang ating mga pare. But then, every now and then, since may alam tayo, we need also to talk to them to be aware, especially those hindi pa mga masyadong sumusunod sa proseso. So, and dito, pati yung mga kaparian natin, they are also learning from this processes, no? Paunti-unti kasi hindi naman to yung nakasanayan nila. So, but then the Diocese of Legazpi is already ready for this. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for sharing your thought. May tanong pa po ba? Baka may na-miss out tayo na question sa taas. Hopefully wala, ano? Baka may magtampo na audience kung hindi masagot. Or else you may send it sa chat box if there's something a missed out question, if any. No more question po. Okay. Parang wala na magtatanong. Pero alright. Kung mayroon ditong question from Sir Eds. Okay, it's an out of the box question, but of course I'm going to entertain this. Sorry to mention this. Accordingly, sa iglesia, pertaining I think to Iglesia ni Cristo Church, bakit isang design ng church? Yan. Bakit nga ba isa ang design ng church? Well, actually in architecture, we have this so-called character of design. So this character of design is being attributed to how one is trying to, let's say, represent or personify a certain idea. All I can say on this is that if you will notice that when you compare this to the classical design, which is the Spanish design, compared to this one, it appears like it's almost a modern concept. Whereas in this case, I look at it as a mere representation of faith and their religion. You know, however, I think the time has also something to contribute with this, because in times that these churches were introduced, comes with it the industrial revolution already, meaning we don't just build, we simply consider some factors such as economy aside from existing materials or technology. So at this point, I just look at it as merely a representation of who they are, what they are, and of course, building church for that modern idea. And the rest of that, I think that's something that they have to explain further. Okay, but that's a good question. So from there, you can see how unique the craftsmanship of every church that we have compared to the modern churches that we have. Because this is due to the introduction of modern materials. So what's so unique about the colonial, era is that when you think of construction technology, it's so amazing that how come a certain rubble or stones or piles of stones has been built that high, that big, and that colossal compared to the modern idea of, building churches. Ang sabi ko nga, ang challenge ko sa Indo, kung di Indo nare-reparo ang simbahan na di inababa sa sarong metro, di pahunindo ang wall. Diyan kayo ma-amaze kung paano yan pinagpatong-patong, kung paano na-construct ang vaulted arch, vaulted ceiling, that domical forms of a structure, na samantalang wala pa tayo noon mga modernong, materials na magsusupport dyan. Ha? It's just merely by, artistic or artisans idea. Compared to nowadays, there's so much, even the introduction of computer technology. Okay, so I just hope I'm meeting that part of the question there. Just to give an intense value to the craft that we are talking about, and that the Spanish colonial period churches. Okay. The churches show and express our faith. There. That's it. Anyway, I'm just responding according to what I understand, because I am not, part of the group. So that's how I view it. Okay po. Oh. Sige po. Mayroon pa po.
So, information for everyone. Meron na lang po tayong last question to entertain. Meron pa po ba tayo dyang question or point for clarification?
All right. Sige.
So, if wala na po, let us continue and let us welcome Sir Edge Besmonte for his message with regards to this very timely webinar series.
Okay, thank you so much, sir, our architect colleague, for a very interesting discussion of our heritage churches. Okay, so before we give you the award, virtually the certificate, so I have some input here. Okay, so maybe a words of thanks. Okay, so heritage, okay, so is an important inheritance from our past. So whether tangible or intangible, they provide representation of our past. And according to UNESCO, heritage, okay, that cultural heritage must be preserved and its cultural significance should be recognized because it shall make it valuable. Okay, so the province of Albay become the earliest seats of the Catholicism, and churches will build to evangelize the early Bicolanos. And the old churches, such as the Holy Gate Parish in Daraga, Albay, the Nuestra Senora Salvacion in Orantiwi, Albay, the Saint John the Baptist Church in Tabaco City and Camalig, have become a testament of the acceptance of the Catholic faith by the people of Albay. And however, these old churches are confronted with threats and constraints that must be addressed. And if old churches will not be conserved, protected, and promoted, a significant part of our culture will lose. Now, in 2017, so the Bicol University and the Roman Catholic Bishop of Legazpi entered into a memorandum of agreement providing a dynamic and responsive extensive services towards the improvement of the quality of life of the Bicolanos. And the Bicol University committed itself in the extension program titled The Proposed Conservation of the Spanish Colonial Churches in the Diocese of Legazpi that aim to provide a technical assistance and conduct necessary training pursuant to the Memorandum of Agreement. And this training, this webinar series is in pursuant to the Memorandum of Agreement entered into by the Bicol University through the Institute of Design and Architecture. And this webinar series is anchored on the theory of Turley called the heritage cycle that emphasizes that heritage is important in the people's lives. The heritage cycle explains that we must understand our heritage because it is important in our lives. And through understanding, okay, so the cycle explains that people must understand the heritage for them to value it. Okay, we must first understand so that we will value it, so that they will care for it. And by caring, it will help them enjoy it. And from enjoying, it will develop our eagerness to understand all about these heritage properties. And also, this activity is in consonance with the National Cultural Heritage Act of 2009 and Article 14 of 1987 Constitution that mandates for the promotion, preservation, and enrichment of Filipino culture embedded in the country's tangible and intangible heritage. Also, this activity give us an avenue for the Bicol University Institute of Architecture and the Bicol University Extension Management Division to render expert service to the community in pursuit of inclusive social development and ensuring the protection and enrichment of the cultural heritage through local and stakeholders' participation for sustainable development. Also, we are conducting this activity pursuant to the celebration of the National Arts Month. So kailangan nating i-celebrate ang ating faith and heritage. February is the celebration of the National Arts Month. Okay, so before we end, let me express our deepest appreciation to Bicol University Institute of Design and Architecture and to our very able resource speaker, architect Alvin Calix. So let's give him a virtual round of applause. Okay, palakpakan po natin si Sir Calix. Also to architect Leo Del Rosario for, of course, endorsing the activity. To architect Ana Liria, the extension coordinator of DBU IDEA. To BUEMD, headed by Dr. Marcia Rico and Professor Zoilo. To everyone, maraming salamat po, and I hope you have learned something new, and I hope you have developed your eagerness to understand and eventually love our heritage. Okay, so another announcement, please don't forget to evaluate our activity today and for your post-test. Okay, so maraming salamat to everyone. Congratulations and thank you for taking your time, for spending your precious time in our activities. So this is just the start. So for the whole month of February, we'll be having every week a webinar all about the churches in the Diocese of Albay. Maraming salamat, and to everyone again, and to Be Idea, congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Allow me
So
to
at
promote
this
this one.
juncture,
Yes, sir.
let
Yes, please. I just would like to encourage everybody to join us
us
again next.
proceed to the
Yes, sir. There. Magkakaroon pa tayo ng series of webinars in the coming weeks. So abangan niyo po. So this is an invitation from the Bicol University Extension Management Division and together with the Bicol University Institute of Design and Architecture. That's it for today. So thank you. Yes, sir.
So everyone, wag mo muna po tayong aalis at magkakaroon tayo ng photo op later. Pero at this juncture po, let us continue to let's proceed to the awarding of a certificate for Architect Alwin. Wait lang po natin na i-flash yung certificate. So, citation reads, Republic of the Philippines, Bicol University, Office of the Vice President for Research, Development and Extension, Extension Management Division, and the Institute of Architecture and Design, Legazpi City, awards this certificate of commendation to Architect Alwin S. Galig for sharing invaluable time and expertise as resource speaker for the topic, The Grandeur of the Past, Revealing Artistic Value of Spanish-era Churches in Diocese of Legazpi. During the webinar on Appreciating and Understanding Spanish Colonial Era Churches held on February 5, 2024 via video conferencing and online live streaming. Given this 5th day of February 2024 at Bicol University, Legazpi City. To be signed by Marcia Corazon P. Rico, PhD, Director of the Extension Management Division, and Architect Leo Del Rosario, Director of BU Institute of Design and Architecture. And Ma'am Marisa N. Estrella, PhD, Vice President for Research, Development, and Extension. Thank you po.
Thank you, sir.
At this moment, may I request everyone to please open your camera. Tayo po ay magkakaroon ng photo opportunity. Okay po, ready sa first slide? Smile po tayo. 1, 2, 3. Okay po, sa second slide. One, two, three. Smile. Okay po, sa third slide. 1, 2, 3. Okay po, sa last slide. Smile po tayo. 1, 2, 3. And ayun po. Thank you po sa lahat ng dumalo.
Thank you so much, Sir Alwin.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Dan. You're welcome.
And to all the participants, all the students, thank you so much. Hope to see you next webinar, I mean.
Reminder po to please accomplish and fill out the attendance and evaluation link to be found in the chat box and the comment section for the Facebook Live.
Okay na, permission to leave?